the Gettysburg Address. That means 5 copies in Lincoln's handwriting. 5 copies that exist are what they call the Nicolay copy, the Hay copy, the Everett copy. Everett, by the way. You know all the stuff they say that everybody thought Lincoln did such a bum job and nobody was impressed? Baloney. There was a moment of stunned silence and then uproarious applause. And Edward Everett came over to Lincoln and said, "You have said in 2 minutes what I tried to say in 2 hours, and you did it much better than I. Would you give me a copy of your address?" And Lincoln promised him when he got back to Washington, he copied out one and sent it to Edward Everett. Didn't know that existed until 1925 when it was discovered in Edward Everett's papers by his granddaughter. There's the Bancroft copy and the Bliss copy. Those are the 5. They're all in Lincoln's handwriting of that particular time. If you go to Magdalen College, which is one of the schools of Oxford, to the Duke of Humphrey Library, and you walk in on one of the walls, over wherever that wall will be, are incised some words, and at the bottom of it, I'm Scottish by the way, not Norwegian, so I get emotional. Incised, and at the bottom it says, "The greatest piece of English prose ever written," and this is what it says. 87 years ago, our forefathers brought forth unto this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that the nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor powers to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we are highly resolved that the dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And he sat down. There are 5 allusions to the Declaration of Independence. There are several recapitulations of things that he said in other places. What you just heard me read is considered one of the 4 foundational documents of this nation. The 4 documents are the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, and the Gettysburg Address. Some would add Lincoln's second inaugural as a 5th document. I would be among that group who would do that. Those 270 words, 2 minutes and 40 seconds, or whatever it took for him to read them and read them, are, you notice, it doesn't say Civil War. It doesn't talk about the victory of the North over the South. It doesn't talk about the evils of the Confederacy or the treacherousness of the rebels. It talks about the men who died here. Sanctified this place. He does not engage in partisan stuff. And that document, through time, has become one of the most significant things ever written by any human being on this planet for the last 7,000 years. With that, on the 1st of July, I encourage you to go forth to the 4th and remember the things that we are in truth celebrating this weekend. It's not about parades. It's not about football games. Thank God we don't do 4th of July in the middle of football season. You know? It's not about any of those kinds of things. It's about remembering something of incredible value that transcends politics, that transcends time, that transcends many different things. And if we ever forget them, we are in a heap of serious trouble. This is indeed a very special time. For the 200th anniversary of our nation's remembrance of the Declaration of Independence, I was in Japan, July 4th, 1976, in Kagoshima, Japan, one of the few Americans in that town who they knew could speak Japanese. And the Japanese television station came to our house. We were holding a 4th of July celebration and invited a lot of our neighbors and friends to come, most of them who were Japanese. And they interviewed my wife and I about what did it mean to be an American. I have to tell you, that was an interesting moment for me because I'm an expat. I was born in Scotland.